Can you unscramble an egg? We're about to find out with the Tories. The Tory plan seems to be virtual insanity. And in this video, you're going to see them ignore key components of the problem.
Can I get a flat white, please?
Of course.
While my coffee is being made, let me tell you what we're doing to halve inflation.
This is Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor of Britain.
I'm afraid coffee is getting more expensive. A year ago, it would have been around £2.50, but now it's gone up to nearly £3 a cup.
Benefits of leaving the European Union, including cheaper food, clothing and footwear.
Absolutely amazing he's saying this. He's admitting there's a problem. Are we going to get to the bottom of it? I can think of at least 3 things that he's not going to mention. Can you name those 3 things?
And the price of the weekly shop, if you look at food prices, has gone up by about 16%.
It's actually 16.9. So let's see how it compares to the rest of Europe. For example, Holland is 16% flat. Let's have a look at Germany next. Germany is 7.9% inflation for food. Let's go over to Italy. Italy is 13% for food inflation. This is going to become important when we look at clothing in a minute. If we go over to France, it's 12%. As you can see, they have reduced levels of inflation.
And for the poorest families, the things they typically buy have gone up by even more.
That's absolutely correct. A mum had repeated a big Tesco shop from 2020 and did it in 2023, and she was shocked at the difference in prices. For example, some prices had gone up by about 133.3%. Shockingly, almost half of the 43 products had gone up by 50%, with Tesco's Angel Cake going up from 62 pence to £1.60.
The Bank of England's inflation target is 2%, but currently inflation is about 10%. That means more expensive food, fuel, it means unemployment going up, businesses failing, £1 in your pocket is worth less than it used to be. There are lots of reasons why inflation has risen. One of them is COVID.
Fair enough, production goes down, prices go up.
When we found a vaccine and came out of lockdown, global supply chains struggled to cope, and that pushed prices up.
Except that wasn't the only thing that pushed the prices up. I've just mentioned you had fewer goods, but we also had more money because the Bank of England printed more and then invested it in other banks and businesses. And when you have more money chasing fewer goods, you have this thing called hyperinflation. You might be aware of it. It was a big problem after World War I. The actual definition of hyperinflation is 30% increase in inflation over a 3-year period. And I've just shown that to you in that Tesco shop.
Another is Putin's invasion of Ukraine, which pushed global gas prices to their highest ever level.
But Germany's natural gas makes up about 27% of Germany's energy mix. And half of that, 55%, comes from Russia. That's now been cut off, but its inflation rate is nowhere near as bad as Britain's. And that reminds me there's a bit more to this. Let's have a look at the inflation prices for clothing. France inflation for clothing is 2.6%. Over in Austria, it's 2.8%. And in Italy, it's only 3.2%. But in Great Britain, it's 7.5%. And the reason I bring that up is because we were repeatedly told with Brexit, everything would be cheaper.
We cut the cost of food, clothing and footwear. Lots of countries around the world trade on a WTO basis. We can prosper on that basis. We would set our own tariffs. We could have cheaper food, clothing and footwear straight away. Food, of clothing, of footwear.
And finally, even after gas prices have started to come down, economists say that energy prices will remain high for some time. And all that means that the price of a cup of coffee has gone up.
Now he has completely missed out anything to do with Brexit, which is interesting because Brexit is causing 2 problems. The first are labour shortages, which are driving up prices. The second problem is the delays, or any delays that take place within the ports. Now at the moment there are minimal checks taking place, if any at all, but even the slightest of checks are going to delay transportation getting into the UK and therefore cause food prices to go up. This is Adam Posson, he worked for the Bank of England, and this is his take on what has happened with Brexit and food prices.
Labour market issues, and there's been no regulatory changes and no sudden shocks to the nature of the labour market. It really seems like Brexit has to bear a disproportionate role in explaining the inflation.
The people who transport the coffee beans over the oceans have to pay more for their fuel. People who transport the coffee beans inside the UK have to pay more. And the result is they have to put up the price of a cup of coffee, otherwise they lose money.
Thank you for confirming what I just said.
So what's the plan to halve inflation?
Well, currently it seems to deny anything to do with the Bank of England or anything to do with Brexit. But there's one more thing that he hasn't mentioned that everyone knows about and everyone in the UK is really angry over. Yep, you might have guessed it, it's this idiot who completely wrecked the British economy with unfunded, unannounced, unsupervised tax cuts.
Well, we are investing a lot of money in renewable and nuclear power, so that our energy prices aren't at the whim of the international gas markets.
That's going to take about 10 years to take effect, so that isn't a short-term solution to this problem.
We're investing a lot in a national energy efficiency program, so we use less energy and help prevent climate change. And we've taken very difficult decisions to balance the nation's books so that markets have confidence and don't punish the UK with higher interest rates that mean families with mortgages have to pay more.
That's because the government has already done that, and it's damaged the mortgage market to the point where it's increased some mortgages between £200 and £400 a month.
And that's what's happening, and that's our plan.
That isn't a plan, it's a doodle sketch out of the warped mind of Donald Trump. As you can guess, they can't unscramble a scrambled egg. Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of that. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Did you guess those 3 points that he wasn't going to bring up? And in the meantime, a big thank you to all of my Patreon and YouTube supporters, as well as those who buy me a coffee. You keep this channel going. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do that in the description, clicking on one of the links, or alternatively, just hit that like and subscribe button.